Welcome to this episode of 10 Minutes with Sam, and this is Akshat Singh. Our guest for today is Commodore Anil Jay Singh. He's a Navy veteran and has served in the Navy for about 30 years. He currently serves as the Vice President of the Indian Maritime Foundation, where he also heads the Delhi branch. Sir is a strategy enthusiast, and today we'd be talking about the blue economy with him. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much, Akshat.
So the format is fairly simple. We have 10 minutes and we'll try covering as much ground as possible. So first of all, what is the blue economy? And what sort of potential does South Asia and India have when it comes to the blue economy?
Well, the term blue economy was actually first used by a gentleman called Gunther Pauly, who wrote, he heads an organization called the Zero Emissions Research Initiative. And he wrote a book called Blue Economy, 10 Years, 100 Innovations, 100 million jobs. It was published in 2010 and did talk about sustainable development, but not with a maritime orientation. The maritime orientation came about at the Rio Plus 20 conference in 2012, where the small island developing states, which were feeling the effects of climate change the most, pressed for green economies to take greater cognizance of the oceans as development spaces. And so this term was given this maritime orientation as a future for a sustainable and equitable development model for mankind from the oceans. Okay. That's how the term blue economy originated. The importance of the blue economy in today's world obviously cannot be overemphasized. It's in this very globalized, interconnected world, which is challenged by depleting land resources, unchecked exploitation. The dependence of humankind now on the oceans is going to just increase exponentially by the day, not only as a means of sustenance, but perhaps in the next few years as an existential necessity. It'll become so important. The oceans cover 72% of the surface of the earth and constitute more than 95% of the biosphere. You can imagine how important they are for the sheer survival of the world. They sustain all the essential ingredients that support life on earth. And not only that, they are a source of food for large sections of the global population and carry more than 80% of global trade. So they are a major source of hydrocarbons. We know that, most of the oil comes from the sea, and it continues to be sort of the main source of hydrocarbons in the world. So the oceans really have the potential to meet all the sustainable development needs of mankind. But to do so, they need to be firstly nurtured with care and used judiciously. I think that is very important. So as far as India is concerned, so this is broadly what the blue economy is all about. Now, as far as India is concerned, in the sort of South Asian, Indian Ocean space, it's the leading maritime power in the Indian Ocean and considers itself a net security provider. So it has to take the lead and leverage its maritime primacy to establish a framework that is inclusive and cooperative amongst the Indian Ocean states, and particularly the small island states, to collectively address the security challenges and drive all the blue economy initiatives in the region. Coming to South Asia in general, I think once again, India being the leading sort of South Asian nation and the other nations being much smaller, will have to take all the nations along with it, create a capacity building, collective, inclusive architecture. Unfortunately, South Asia is driven by a lot of mutual distrust among nations. So it's a pity, but that's true. And so it's going to be quite a challenge for India. India has taken the initiative, things like BIMSTEC, etc. But it will be a while before South Asia as a region can really pull its weight in becoming the leader of the blue economy initiatives in the world.
Absolutely, sir. Sir, one thing that was really very interesting when you talk about the blue economy is that its historical roots are tied to the sustainable model of development. And that is something that has been pushed to the forefront, especially due to COVID-19. How do you think that COVID-19 affects blue economies in general? And what is the sort of potential for growth here?
I think COVID has been a real wake-up call for the world. It's the human and economic fallout of this pandemic is being felt across the globe. And the effect of increasing unemployment, economic distress amongst the people, I don't think the full dimension of this has yet been understood. And with no immediate end now in sight for this pandemic, things could worsen as countries will have to grapple with the necessity to resume full economic activity while risking the spread of the pandemic.
Absolutely.
So coastal communities and even nations might be tempted to ignore this sort of regulated approach that has begun to take place in trying to exploit the sea to mitigate their economic distress which they will be feeling. For example, coastal communities could resort to illegal fishing or going beyond their laid down quotas for the year, because after all it's a question of survival for them.
Absolutely.
Similarly, for example, if you take China's belligerence in the last few months we've seen, it won't be surprising if they sort of barge into other people's oceanic spaces and try and exploit the marine resources there. They've been doing it earlier. They'll continue doing it. But COVID has been a sort of China sort of thought it would be able to expose the vulnerability of other nations and be able to push its agenda further, which unfortunately for them has had a pushback. But nevertheless, the point I'm trying to make is that this is going to be a major challenge, particularly at this critical time when the world was at a point where a lot of nations were transiting from being lower middle income countries to the middle income countries, and middle income countries moving to a little above middle income countries. This has been a setback to them. And as this sort of takes root, combined with what is happening in COVID, more and more countries are going to turn to the oceans to meet their requirements.
Absolutely.
That is why it's going to lead to competition. It's going to lead to confrontation, and eventually could even lead to a conflict if things get out of hand.
Absolutely, sir. As in, the problems already existed, but the COVID challenge and the point of desperation that people, especially coastal communities, would be driven to will add fuel to the fire. Sir, what about a sort of multilateral perspective when it comes to dealing with the blue economy? We see that India has found a prominent position within the Quad, and there are multiple other multilateral organizations that are working towards, harnessing the power of the oceans. How do you think multilateral organizations will play a role in this?
I think here, let's start with the Quad first. And the reason I'm starting with the Quad is because the foreign ministers of Quad had just met yesterday in Tokyo to discuss a lot of things besides just security. So far the Quad somehow had got centered just on maritime security, containment of China, and that was the main reason why the Quad was not progressing. Now that the Quad is looking at a far wider sort of scope of security and economic development, sustainable development, I think the Quad provides a great platform to start to initiate blue economy initiatives in the Indo-Pacific. Now, amongst the Quad, India is the only Indian Ocean resident power in the Quad. The others are all Pacific powers.
Absolutely.
So the onus of ensuring the Quad agenda in the Indian Ocean rests primarily on India.
Absolutely.
And India, by itself, being the biggest power in the region, will in any way feel itself responsible for that, in any case. Now, what should India do? India's fundamental aim in the Indian Ocean is capacity building. It has to secure its strategic neighborhood. It has to sort of take all its neighbors along with it, its maritime neighbors. The Indian Ocean is a very disaggregated sort of a space. There are lots of issues, whether it's East Africa, whether it's West Asia, whatever it might be. Then, of course, you have organizations like IORA, which have never really fulfilled their potential, the Indian Ocean Rim Association. There are organizations like SAARC, which has a huge trust deficit amongst the members itself. So I think India is quite a challenge in leveraging its position in the Quad and as a leading Indian Ocean nation to get everybody on board on the blue economy. Where India can gain is now India is finding a sort of more prominent place on the global, I wouldn't say they're not on the top table yet, but more or less there. For the next 2 years, India is going to be a non-permanent member of the Security Council. It's going to take over presidency of the G20, which is probably the most influential economic body. It has begun something. Prime Minister announced something called the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative. It is leading the International Solar Alliance, which is combating climate change. It is trying to meet all the targets of the Sustainable Development Goals and trying to be a leader in that. So when you take all that into consideration, India is going to have a prominent voice in this sort of global multilateral context.
Absolutely.
So I think India has a great challenge ahead of it to be the global leader or the regional leader in putting forth the challenges of the region on the multilateral in the multilateral context on the global top table.
Absolutely.
Over the next few years.
Perfect. So that brings us to the end of 10 minutes. Thank you so much for being with us here today. And we would certainly speak with you soon again in the future.
Thank you very much, Akshat. It was a pleasure. And I'm sure this is a subject that, there's a lot to read about. There's a lot to think about. And probably I hope my little introduction to it will generate some interest amongst your viewers
Absolutely.
on this very important subject that is there.
Absolutely.